Hello, children. It's great to be with you again for another Open the Book Online. We'll start, as we usually do, with Did you just see that? That was a lion, wasn't it? I'm glad he looked quite friendly. Well, as I said before, we'll start with our special Open the Book song. So don't forget to sing along.
Open the book. Open the book. Open the book and see. The Bible is the book, so come on, take a look. It's fun to turn the page, find out what God's words say. So let's all open the book. Open the book. Open the book and see. Open the book. Open the book. Open the book and see.
Now it's time for our Open the Book story. I wonder if you sometimes find it hard to do the right thing. In today's story, we meet someone who was told that he shouldn't pray to God. But this man carried on praying because he believed it was the right thing to do. As you listen to this story, you will see that God's people are no longer living in their own land. They are living far away from home. So let's open the book at the story called Daniel and the Lions.
God was very sad. Most of his people had stopped listening to him and talking to him and following his rules.
Change your ways,
God warned them.
or you will have to leave this special land I gave you long ago.
But the people would not listen. So God let their enemies defeat them and destroy their cities and carry them hundreds of miles away to be slaves in the land of Babylon. Daniel missed his home in Jerusalem, but he wanted to please God wherever he was. So he worked hard at the jobs he was given, so hard that he became one of the king's own helpers. But he never forgot about God or failed to pray to him morning, noon, and night. Some of the king's men were jealous of Daniel. They wanted his job for themselves. So they talked the king into making a new law, a law which said,
No one is allowed to pray to anyone but the king himself. We've got Daniel now.
His enemies laughed, and so they had. For the very next morning, Daniel knelt by his window, bowed his head, and prayed, not to the king, but to God.
Thank you for taking care of us in this faraway land.
He prayed.
Forgive us, and please take us back to our own land soon.
Daniel's enemies were watching, and before he could even open his eyes, they grabbed him and dragged him in front of the king. The king was sad, very sad. He liked Daniel, but he could not break his own law.
Daniel must be punished.
He sighed.
Throw him into the lion pit.
But even as the king gave the order, he whispered a prayer that no one could hear, a prayer to Daniel's God that somehow Daniel might be saved. The pit was dark. The pit was deep. The lions covered its floor like a shaggy, growling carpet. They leapt to their feet in a second when Daniel landed among them. They licked their lips. They showed their teeth. Their eyes shone bright and fierce. They opened their mouths and moved towards their dinner.
Shoo! Scatter! Go away!
Shouted a voice right behind Daniel. Slowly Daniel turned around and looked up into the face of an enormous angel. The lions stopped. Then their mouths snapped shut, their tails drooped, and they whimpered away to the corners of the cave.
Nothing to worry about now. God sent me to watch over you.
The angel smiled.
Why don't you get some sleep?
The next morning, the king cheered when he discovered that Daniel was still alive.
Pull Daniel out,
He ordered his men.
and while you're at it, take the men that talked me into that silly law and dump them into the pit instead.
The king put his arm around Daniel and walked him back to the palace. Meanwhile, Daniel's enemies cried for help, and the lions enjoyed their breakfast.
Daniel knew it was wrong to pray to the king and right to pray to God. He risked being eaten by the lions, but he still chose to do what he knew to be right. Doing the right thing can be really difficult sometimes, and Daniel was very brave, wasn't he? Now, let's close our eyes and see if you can think of a time when you had to be brave. Now, let's keep our eyes closed. I'm going to say a prayer, and if you want to make it your prayer, say Amen at the end after me. Dear God, sometimes other people try to make us do the wrong thing. Please help us to be brave and stand up for what we know is right. Amen. Now we have another song to end Open the Book Online today. This one is called Shut the Lion's Jaw. The words will be on the screen, and as usual, we'll play the song twice so that you can join in.
When the king said you can't pray, Daniel did it anyway. So the king said to all of his men, throw Daniel in the lion's den. It was dark, but he wasn't afraid. He knew that he would be saved. When the lion started moving forward, Daniel put his faith in the Lord. An angel came down to shut the lion's jaw. This big and scary lion couldn't even roar. Yes, an angel came down to shut the lion's jaw. He couldn't even roar. You won't be facing lions today, but if things are standing in your way, you just put your faith in the Lord. He's gonna help you to move forward. An angel came down to shut the lion's jaw. This big and scary lion couldn't even roar. Yes, an angel came down to shut the lion's jaw. He couldn't even roar. An angel came down to shut the lion's jaw. This big and scary lion couldn't even roar. Yes, an angel came down to shut the lion's jaw. He couldn't even roar.
Here comes the song for a second time.
When the king said you can't pray, Daniel did it anyway. So the king said to all of his men, throw Daniel in the lion's den. It was dark, but he wasn't afraid. He knew that he would be saved. When the lion started moving forward, Daniel put his faith in the Lord. An angel came down to shut the lion's jaw. This big and scary lion couldn't even roar. Yes, an angel came down to shut the lion's jaw. He couldn't even roar. You won't be facing lions today, but if things are standing in your way, you just put your faith in the Lord. He's gonna help you to move forward. An angel came down to shut the lion's jaw. This big and scary lion couldn't even roar. Yes, an angel came down to shut the lion's jaw. He couldn't even roar. An angel came down to shut the lion's jaw. This big and scary lion couldn't even roar. Yes, an angel came down to shut the lion's jaw. He couldn't even roar.
The lion in the song couldn't even roar. Can you remember what sound he made at the end? Yes, he meowed. He sounded quite funny, didn't he? Well, once again, we've come to the end of another Open the Book. We do hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for watching. We'll be back again soon with our next Open the Book story called A Time to Build.